the program, I might not be there but with all of them. Let me also recognize the Chief Director of Basic Operations, Ms. T. and the directors from head office who are here. I see Ms. Nkcobo and I see Ms. Mahlambi, who is the director in the office of the HOD. She is sitting next to Ms. T. The management committee of Umlazi district, comprising of deputy directors, chief education specialists, and the extended NEMCO, of course, which has our circuit managers and deputy chief education specialists. All colleagues who are here from all the sections of the department. I really appreciate District Director, Mrs Mahlambi, your invitation for me to come and address you. I don't know whether you were aware or you were not aware that I might have been in Bahamas as you said in the message. But of course, when duty calls got me there, in fact, I never took leave. I was in Maldives in spirit. In fact, as early as the 2nd of January, I was off to Pretoria for a meeting with Umlazi for standardization of the NSC results, and I spent the whole week there. So I hardly had any holiday. Can you imagine the 2nd of Jan and you are at work? Ladies and gentlemen, it really gives me great pleasure to be here with you today on this day, the 8th of January 2024.
Like this. Pietermaritzburg Girls High, their learners in June stay at home and have a rest. They don't attend middle schools. But learners in Edendale are grouped together in some winter camp in Blessisland. And to them, that means our system is failing. But what they don't tell you is this. If you go to Northlands, boys, it's called Northlands boys. Northwood, up the road. Or there's Northland girls and Northwood, up the road. You go there when learners finish for the day at about 3 or so. You will see big cars there coming to collect children as they leave school. And then you'll see whose children are coming. But ask yourself this question, are they all going home at that point? Many of them are not going home. Many of them have private tutors for mathematics, and they are taken there. And parents combined spend millions in ensuring that their children get the best, that they do well in mathematics, they do well in physical science, because they got means to do that. Now, they want us to believe that when we assist, when we support our learners, when we support our own, we are doing the wrong thing. Because they want us to feel apologetic and ashamed of what we are doing. And then say, yeah, maybe let's reconsider this thing. Maybe let's reconsider it. when in fact the majority of our people would not be able to afford the tutors that your Peter Marisburg girls' parents are affording, that you colleagues are affording. For your children, for your own children to actually attain the results that they attain. That simply says that all learners, irrespective of where they are, do need support. The only difference is that the support for a certain group of learners, for middle class learners, comes from their own parents, whereas those that are on the lower ranks of society wouldn't have support. And anyone who says that our system is failing and quotes these things, I've just provided you how to respond to that person. But having said that, we've got to work towards a situation whereby 2035, the class of 2035 needs almost no extra support, because everything that has happened during their 12 years of schooling has been supportive and aimed at ensuring that they are successful. One of the programs that we've embarked on, you would have seen, is the focus on GET. And the strategy is to ensure that from grade 1, we support our learners. But in order for the process to be faster, we start with our grade 8 and 9, so that we see the results, improved results without much interventions, so to speak, earlier than even 2035. And that's the most sustainable route that our vision, in terms of our vision, that we must follow, so that gradually, we spend less money on winter schools and so on, but not for the reasons that they want us, that they want to give us, but for the reasons simple that are saying we must capitalize on the fact that when our learners start in the foundation phase, they are very good. Like Mrs Mahlambi was saying, there's no need to worry. I mean, if you look at our NSC results in mathematics, and you premise your argument on the fact that numeracy that's done in the foundation phase is the foundation for all mathematics and maths that's going to happen later as the learners progress. If you premise your argument on that, then you go to your grade 1 results, grade 2 results on numeracy, grade 3 results. You will have no reason to worry when you look at those results, because the learners there are achieving 6, 7 in terms of ratings. But then what happens? What happens somewhere? So what we are saying is that in the forthcoming, I mean, in starting this year and in a few years to come as well. But at least I'm talking about at the time when I'll be here, because remember, I'm temporary, while all of you are permanent. Now, yeah, I'm a temporary educator. What I'm trying to say to you colleagues is that we've got to look at what happens at foundation phase that makes us sleep peacefully, thinking that all is well. And where is the turning point? Let's look at things like, for example, the quality of teaching and the quality of assessment. And our colleagues from the foundation, from the GET phase have to look into that. The quality of teaching and the quality of assessment in particular. Because it's possible that we may pride ourselves of good results at that level, only to find that the quality of the assessments that the learners were subjected to were often lower standard. And they were often lower standard maybe because the quality of teaching itself confined the teachers to set those kinds of tasks, because that is what they had actually taught. Now, those are areas in which we should look at. I'm not suggesting that it's the only area that we should look at, but it's one of them, in my view, to look at the quality of assessment and the standard. And to also look carefully at the issue of common test. And that's one other term, again, that I have indicated to colleagues, that is actually tends to mislead us, it tends to take us astray. We tend to focus on something we should not be focusing on. When we talk about a common test, for example, in the department, what are we talking about? What comes to mind? It's a test set centrally, written by schools. Basically, we are saying we are talking about the same test. All the schools are writing the same test set by the district or by head office. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually a good thing, because what it does, it says we are subjecting our learners to common standards. But instead of common tests, focusing on common tests, we should focus on common standards, not common tests, common standards. Common standards would mean even if 25,000 teachers set tasks for their various schools, but the standards will be the same. The test is not necessarily common in the sense that of being common word for word, but the standards throughout are the same or are comparable. And that's what we must focus on throughout the system, but more particularly in our GT phase, as we try to deal with the vexing question of what happens during the 12 years that leads to a situation where the same learners who were performing at 7 in the foundation phase now are struggling to get 30% in mathematics when they reach NSC. Now, in teacher development, we've got our work cut out for us. But our philosophy on teacher development is that teachers are professionals, trained professionals. And there are certain underlying assumptions that we have about them. And that is, they know at least basic things. I mean, if you go to a hospital, if you take the Department of Health, just move away from our department, you take the Department of Health. A nurse is expected to be able to perform certain functions. If, for example, in the Department of Health, you were told that in that clinic, the nurses can't even administer the IV drip, they can't even do it. You would then think about their training. You would then think, it can't be. I mean, those are basics. There are certain things. A nurse should be able to take temperature, at least, and read, and understand what it means. For example, if it is high or low, what it means. Those are basics. Now, if you go to teaching, the same basics are assumed of all our teachers, but they are, at least they're there. So our support to them is basically about ensuring that they reach higher heights. So you take that kind of philosophy to assessment, and you look at assessment theories and standards, that you've got to have questions at a particular level, middle order questions and high order questions. And you should say, all our teachers must be able to teach at a low order content. At least they should be able to master it. And they should be able to impart knowledge to their learners at that level. And therefore their learners should be able to succeed in answering questions or tasks at that level. If you look at assessment papers and assessment theories and the percentages thereof, you can see that most learners should be able to pass. For example, mathematics. Even if they are taught by an average teacher. In other words, an average teacher must be able to cause learners to pass mathematics. So what our support to the teacher is as teacher development, it should be to raise them from middle order to higher order. In other words, assist them to be able to navigate content of a more complex nature in that subject. Not basics. Basics should be assumed that they are there. And I want to believe that they are there. Our universities, I mean, most of our teachers go through university education these days. They are providing that kind of basic knowledge and skills to our teachers. That's how we should approach this vexing question of foundation phase performing well, but the learners at FET phase not reflecting the same performance that they reflected when they were at the foundation phase. I promise that when I conclude, I will touch on briefly on the fiscal situation of the department. 2023 was a hard year, colleagues. It was, I don't think it can get worse than 2023. The reason why 2023 was as hard as it was financially was that when a resolution was signed for the increment in our wages and conditions of service, and improvement of conditions of service, when it was signed, it was unfunded. Of course, these agreements are signed at national level at the PSCDC. And we are led there by DPSA. Of course, there are various ministries that are part of the mandating committee of the state. Now, in April, all of us got a raise. And that money had not been given to all government departments by National Treasury. And the National Treasury instead had said that we must find the money within our budget to fund an agreement that they agreed to at national. In other words, see where you find money, but the salaries are going to go up. And remember, when the salaries go up, as they did in April, they went up programmatically. In other words, we didn't sit and capture, those increases. It was a programmatic action that happened at National Treasury, and all of us woke up that day and we checked our cell phones, and our salaries were slightly higher. In the past, that used to happen in July, and we'll get a back pay to April. And the reason why it would happen around that time was so that even if departments didn't have enough money, the budget adjustment time was close, and therefore or they would be reimbursed at that time. It's either they will be given the money in July or they will be reimbursed shortly after that. But this time it happened differently. We got our money in time, but Treasury didn't put money in time. And I'm not saying it's not even provincial treasury, because one of the things that people must understand, don't look at provincial treasury and say, news. It doesn't work like that. The money of the country is kept at the national fiscals. It's not given to us. But of course, people don't know that. People just talk. Omunye ngabombe uthini how MEC kade announce ukuthi the budget of 60 billion. Umbe manje. Anisinikile abanomza standard. Imali yethu anisinikile yamanorms. Nethi imali yini? How ayisekho. Ngo-April kade nginika u-60 billion. Umbe ayisekho senenzeni. Now, that's an innocent question. But the senenzeni part is not innocent. That part is not necessarily innocent. That part is actually saying that, hey, I say you did it along the way. Right? Because people think that the money, once announced, is then deposited into the department's bank account. All 60 billion. We wouldn't have too many problems if that happened. Because it would mean the interest from that 60 billion would be generated into our bank account. But that's not how it happens. National Treasury keeps the purse. And they keep the purse because where they get the money themselves, there are two sources where government gets money. Because government doesn't run business. Because we do run business, ESCOM and so on, but unfortunately, we're not making money out of our state entities. Instead, we're making money. So government gets money from your tax, and also government gets money from loans. And loans from agencies like the World Bank and so on. And those loans come with interest. And because of our ranking, you know, when you read the news and you are told that we are at a particular status, junk status and so on, what that simply means is that to obtain loans is very expensive for us because the interest we pay is higher than it would be if we were ranked slightly more positively. So for that reason, government keeps the money at national treasury so that whatever interest it generates, it helps it to pay the interest for the banks from which they themselves have borrowed the money. So it doesn't come to us as departments. What happens, it comes to us in small tranches, like in our case. It comes in tranches of 4.3 billion per month. And our salary bill was about 3.6 billion. But with the wage adjustment, our salary bill shot up to about 4.2. So at any given time, if we got 4.3 in April, 4.2 went to pay your salaries. And we're left with 100 million. Now, What can you do with 100 million then when you owe Ethekwini 378 million and you have a contract which you have signed which says you will pay them 20 million a month. So already, and that's one municipality. Now we're talking the whole province here. So that 100 million is actually nothing. The other thing that we must understand for this is this. In government accounting is very strange. Because sometimes if you are a layman and you are not a finance person, you will lose the logic of it all. You've all read PFMA, particularly in preparation for interviews. Because I know I've sat in many interviews and I've heard people answer me. Now, that's why I'm assuming that people have read the PFMA and therefore understand the concept of, for example, under-expenditure, over-expenditure. Now, if you think in layman's terms, you would say, if a government department is underspent, Treasury must take away the money that it underspends by. There's logic in that. The logic is simple. You didn't use the money. We gave you a budget and 100 million is unused. So we'll take it back because it's unused. It makes sense. Now, where the layman like me gets lost is if the converse was true. Let's say you have now overspent by 100 million. What happens if you overspend? Your logic as a layman says, I overspent, but it's proven that it was not because of recklessness. I overspent, there are these reasons why I overspent. For example, maybe I overspent on the nutrition budget and learners had been fed, and I ended up overspending. Now, if you overspend then by that 100 million, what will happen? Again, the same consequences as underspending. In other words, again, they will take 100 million from you. Whereas in your layman's thinking, you would be saying, because I overspent, I probably need more because it means the budget was not enough. Therefore, they should be added, but no, they can't. Now, what happens then? Because we've been overspending over a number of years. When the MSC announces 60 billion, if in the previous year we were overspent by $1 billion, already from day one, that amount has dropped to 59 billion from day one, because Treasury will take the amount by which we overspent. They would have done the same thing again if we had underspent. They would take it. So if you overspend, they take it. If you underspend, they still take it. And that's government accounting, which, of course, is the way to go. There probably are good reasons for that. As a layman, I'm not sure what those reasons are. So whatever is announced is always minus what you have overspent by the previous year. And then that is why we had the problems that we had. That is why we struggled to pay norms, because we didn't have money, because all the money had gone to your salaries. That is why we couldn't pay for electricity. And that is why we dropped to a level where even our very existence as a department, was threatened. Because we couldn't pay for Microsoft licenses, which would mean our computers would close down and none of our systems would work. the fleet, those are problems that the CFO and myself were dealing with. I mean, there were times when they wanted to ground all our KZN cars because we haven't paid, First National Bank. So that's where our problems are. So colleagues, when we say to you, do the same thing, but there are certain areas where you've got to adjust your expenditure, but still achieve the same results, or even better. Adjust your management style. Do certain things differently. If, for example, you can use virtual platforms to run a workshop, do so. If you can avoid traveling to deliver a circular, don't. Email it to the schools. Those are basic things. So that the money that we have can go towards these important things that we were unable to pay for in the past financial year. And that needs a paradigm shift in thinking. Because as soon as you talk about these things, Range Rover, petrol, but I'm shooting, the Range Rover, but it's also That is also the same. The last about my now starting to personalize this thing to be of the wage agreement, and they agreed to finance it at 78% of what they were owing. And that's better, although it's 22% less, and if you do your math-linked calculations, you'll see 22% of about 60 billion, and you have to see, no, the wage agreement itself was about, I think it was about 4 billion or so. So 22% of 4 billion, it means they are still owing us something, In other words, they didn't give it all to us. The problem with a big department like ours is that if you say 22% and you translate it into rands and cents, it immediately runs to 900 million. And that's very close to $1 billion, and that's a lot of money. 22% in a smaller department may translate to just a couple of millions. But to us, it is a lot of money. But we are grateful anyway that they are going to do that. But they've given us with the right hand, on the left-hand side, that this is what they've done. Left-hand side, they've cut conditional grants budgets. And the conditional grant budget that has been cut and is going to suffer the most is infrastructure budget. So infrastructure budget, Mr. Mkhulu, provincial is cut by 296 million. Which means some of the projects we may have wanted to engage in, we may have to pull back a bit, or we may have to extend time frames of some that we've already started. And the implications of that, if you started a project, but now you don't have enough money to finish it now, the implications of that is that by the time you finish it, with the inflation that has kicked in, a bag of cement will be costing more at the time, and so on and so on. So everything has a real big effect on others. And that is why we've got to be fiscally astute as a department. We must exercise fiscal discipline wherever we are. Ensure that you terminate people on time. People who have resigned or retired. Ensure that they are terminated on time. That is one thing that is embarrassing, really. The most embarrassing thing. How come you are unable to pay teachers on time, but you are able to pay people who have resigned? And the processing laba abasasebenza amasalaries bahole kungapheli 3 months uthisha ngawubili bese kuthi inkunzi malanga mhlambe eyitendisele kuwebhenki manje nje ayisasebenzi yaresign isebhenki irana amatekisi iyahola kanjani. Now you may list a number of problems like, hey, we are a rural district, province. You see, when things come from Nkcobo to Mkhuze, in kind of the district, it's a distance of 200 kilometers, and therefore documents take long to get to the district. Come on, this is not 1820. Even that school in Emanyeseni has, the principal there has a smartphone. So information can get to the district real time. You say all kinds of excuses, but let's say there was a school that was 200 kilometers away. But people will ask, is there a school that's 200 kilometers away from Umlazi district? From Truro House. So it kills your argument about Nkhuze. When people point to an example in Umlazi and Panpa, they say, but here, there's no school that is like that, but we have the same problem as we have in Canada. So fiscal discipline is going to be key in all our planning processes. In other words, our thinking must change, colleagues. Otherwise, we will end up being a department that pays salaries only. And when we become a department that pays salaries only, then it means we are unable to pay schools norms, and it means schools can't run and so on. And we are appealing, therefore, to all of you to help us. And we know they've helped us a lot before. I've always told people that the people who really have come through for us in 2023 are principals of schools. Because when we were unable to pay them their norms, some, although they are exaggerating of course, some had to use their own money to actually run schools. Not all of them, but some of them had to use their own money to run schools. To the extent that colleges were giving money. That's so I don't know. No matter. Colleagues, with that, let me just wish you all the best in your 3 days. I would have wanted to stay here, but I have another engagement just now at 11:30. I really hope that this strategic planning is going to move you a step closer to the targets that we've set for ourselves. As we eagerly await for the 2023 National Senior Certificate results, we hope that you, as our biggest district, have contributed towards what we believe is going to be our continuing journey on an upward trajectory. I wish you all the best as you deliberate in the next 2 days. Thank you, please.